Stop making me laugh.
On an October night in 2024, a call was placed to emergency services from a residence in Tallahassee. When first responders arrived, they found a situation that would quickly be classified as fatal. Within hours, brief statements were released. A woman was dead. Her unborn child did not survive. The scene was secured. Initial reports offered a simple explanation: a shooting, a domestic connection, a case that appeared straightforward. But as days passed, information slowed. Details remained limited. Public updates became rare. What was clear in the first hours became less defined over time. This case is not about the moment the trigger was pulled. It is about what led to that moment, what followed afterward, and what remains absent from the public record. The facts exist, the gaps exist, and between them is a story that has not been fully examined. The case involving Maya Johnson requires examination because it is not limited to a single act of violence. While the shooting itself occurred within a defined time and place, the circumstances surrounding it reflect broader patterns seen in cases of intimate partner violence, particularly when pregnancy is involved. Initial reporting framed the incident as a domestic shooting, suggesting a clear narrative early on. However, as time passed, fewer details were released, and several elements remained unclear. This gap between early reports and later silence makes it necessary to separate confirmed facts from circulating claims. The investigative focus rests on three categories. First, what is confirmed by law enforcement and medical authorities. Second, what has been alleged in media reports or public statements, but not formally substantiated. Third, what has not been officially resolved, including legal outcomes and full contextual explanations. Understanding these distinctions is essential to accurately assessing the case. Maya Johnson was a 26-year-old woman residing in Tallahassee, Florida. At the time of her death, she was pregnant.
Hey, pussy the way.
The nurse, how far do you think the baby dilated? Hun, I really don't feel like you're ready. I think you gotta get like to a 10. Let me check for you.
Public records and family statements indicate she was also a mother, responsible for the care of young children. Her daily routine involved parenting responsibilities and maintaining household stability. While detailed employment records were not widely reported, there is no public indication that she lacked housing or basic financial stability. Available information suggests she managed routine obligations associated with family life. There is no documentation indicating she was financially isolated or socially disconnected. Reports describe her as maintaining independence within her personal circumstances. Johnson had an active family support system. Immediate family members were involved in her life and later played a role in public communication following her death. Extended family relationships were present, and relatives organized support efforts afterward. She maintained regular communication with family members. This consistent contact contributed to the rapid awareness of the incident and immediate concern once it occurred. Family involvement before the shooting appears consistent and ongoing. Her behavioral baseline was defined by routine and predictability. There are no public reports of erratic behavior or unexplained absences. Communication patterns were regular, and there was no known history of disengagement from family responsibilities. There were no publicly documented reports of instability directly attributed to her prior to the incident. Her death drew immediate concern due to its sudden nature, her pregnancy, and the domestic context in which it occurred. Public reporting identified the individual involved in the shooting as her boyfriend. The length of the relationship was not widely detailed, nor were full living arrangements publicly clarified. However, the shooting occurred at her residence, indicating a close domestic connection. During interrogation, her boyfriend confessed they had an argument over him liking another woman's picture on Instagram. Public perception of the relationship was limited to what emerged after the incident. Prior to the shooting, there was little public information suggesting ongoing conflict. As is common in many domestic cases, distinctions between public perception and private reality were not fully documented. There are no publicly available records confirming prior police reports involving the couple. Media coverage did not identify a documented history of domestic disputes prior to the shooting. Any prior arguments or instability have not been officially confirmed through law enforcement records released to the public. This absence of documented warning signs is notable, though it does not confirm their non-existence. It only reflects what has been made public. The shooting occurred on October 22, 2024. Authorities responded to a call reporting gunfire at a residence in Tallahassee. The incident took place inside the home.
I need to take me a picture, bitch. I'm bad as fuck on my mama, son.
Law enforcement stated that the victim was found suffering from gunshot wounds. The individual, identified as her boyfriend, was present at or near the scene, according to early reports. Specific details regarding the sequence of events inside the residence were not fully disclosed. Emergency services responded promptly following the 911 call. First responders provided medical assistance at the scene. Johnson was transported to a hospital for treatment. Despite medical intervention, she was pronounced dead due to gunshot injuries. Medical personnel also confirmed that her unborn child did not survive. Police secured the scene and initiated an investigation. Evidence was collected from the residence, though details regarding the nature of that evidence were not publicly released. Initial statements confirmed a shooting had occurred and identified the incident as a domestic situation. Early classification focused on establishing cause and manner of death rather than motive. Authorities confirmed that Johnson was pregnant at the time of the shooting. Medical evaluation determined that the unborn child also died as a result of the incident. This factor elevated the severity of the case, both medically and legally. The death of an unborn child often introduces additional investigative and prosecutorial considerations, depending on jurisdiction and applicable statutes. While this aspect was acknowledged in early reporting, detailed discussion of its legal implications was limited in subsequent updates. Law enforcement confirmed that Johnson died from gunshot wounds. The manner of death was classified as a homicide. Authorities acknowledged the domestic nature of the incident. They also confirmed that the unborn child did not survive. These facts were established through medical examination and investigative findings. Authorities did not publicly clarify a motive. A full reconstruction of events inside the residence was not released. It was not publicly confirmed whether there were witnesses beyond the individuals involved. Specific details about forensic findings, ballistic evidence, or statements given at the scene were not disclosed. This lack of detail limited public understanding beyond the basic facts. Public reports identified the suspect as Johnson's boyfriend. His presence at the residence connected him directly to the incident. Beyond this relationship, limited personal details were released. It was reported that he was questioned by law enforcement. However, details regarding the duration or outcome of questioning were not widely published. At the time of early reporting, there was no publicly confirmed information regarding formal charges or court proceedings. Some reports referenced domestic involvement, but official charging documents were not broadly circulated. Public court records, if available, were not widely referenced in major news coverage. As a result, the current legal status of the suspect has not been clearly established in public reporting. What remains unconfirmed includes whether charges were filed immediately, whether proceedings are ongoing, or whether further investigation is pending. Initial media coverage of the case involving Maya Johnson focused primarily on the shooting itself. Early headlines emphasized the immediate facts. A woman was shot inside a residence, she was pregnant, and both she and her unborn child died as a result of gunshot wounds. The framing was direct and event-centered. Most early reports relied heavily on preliminary law enforcement statements. Information was presented as it became available during the first hours and days following the incident. Details were limited to what authorities confirmed at that stage, including time, location, and the domestic nature of the situation. At this stage, reporting did not extend beyond the basic timeline. There was little examination of relationship history, legal context, or investigative direction. The narrative was largely shaped by what could be confirmed immediately rather than by broader analysis. As time passed, coverage decreased significantly. Follow-up reporting became infrequent, and updates on investigative or legal developments were limited. While the initial incident received attention due to its severity, subsequent stages of the case did not receive sustained scrutiny. There was little publicly available reporting on whether charges were formally filed, whether court proceedings occurred, or whether prosecutorial decisions were made. In many outlets, the story concluded with the initial incident, leaving the outcome unclear. This reduction in coverage created gaps in the public narrative. Without consistent updates, it became difficult to determine whether the case progressed through the legal system or stalled during investigation. Following the incident, family members issued public statements acknowledging the deaths and calling for justice. These statements emphasized the need for accountability and transparency. Family members expressed concern about the circumstances surrounding the shooting and sought clarity regarding legal outcomes. Requests for justice were framed around the expectation that the incident would be fully investigated and addressed through appropriate legal channels. Family members did not provide detailed accounts of the incident itself, but focused instead on the need for answers. Fundraisers were established in the aftermath of the shooting. These efforts were intended to support funeral expenses and provide assistance for surviving children. The messaging emphasized financial support rather than advocacy details. The existence of these fundraisers highlighted the immediate practical consequences for the family. They also underscored the absence of long-term public updates regarding accountability or resolution. Community response was visible in the short term, but diminished as media attention declined. One of the most significant aspects of the case is the lack of publicly available information regarding legal outcomes. Court records, if they exist, were not widely referenced in major reporting. There is limited public clarity on whether charges were formally filed, prosecuted, or resolved. Delays or silence in official updates contributed to uncertainty. Authorities did not provide frequent public briefings after the initial phase of the investigation. This absence of information makes it difficult to determine whether the case is closed, ongoing, or unresolved due to evidentiary issues. Questions also remain regarding prosecutorial decisions. Without public statements explaining legal reasoning, the public is left without context for why certain actions were or were not taken. The absence of clear closure leaves the case in an ambiguous state. This case fits into a broader pattern involving domestic violence during pregnancy. Studies in prior cases indicate that pregnancy can increase risk in intimate partner violence situations. Despite this, prevention and intervention systems often fail to identify or address risk before incidents occur. Patterns in similar cases show that domestic shootings frequently receive immediate attention but limited follow-up. Once the initial facts are reported, many cases fade from public view before legal outcomes are fully examined. Systemic challenges include underreporting of prior conflicts, limited early intervention, and inconsistent public communication during investigations. These factors contribute to cases losing visibility over time. Several questions remain unresolved. What led up to the shooting remains unclear. There is no publicly released reconstruction of events prior to the incident. Whether warning signs were present has not been confirmed through official records. The absence of documented prior reports does not clarify whether issues existed privately. The current legal status of the case is also unclear. Without publicly confirmed court outcomes, it is unknown who, if anyone, is being held accountable. Details remain limited due to restricted information release and reduced media follow-up. Accountability remains difficult to assess. As of the most recent publicly available information, there has been no comprehensive update detailing final legal resolution. Authorities have not issued statements confirming closure or ongoing prosecution. What remains under investigation, if anything, has not been clarified publicly. Information that has not been released includes court proceedings, charging documents, and sentencing outcomes, if applicable. It is unclear whether the case has reached formal resolution or remains unresolved within the legal system. This case cannot be reduced to a single headline or initial report. While the event itself was documented, understanding the full scope requires examination beyond the moment of violence. There is a difference between reporting an event and understanding its implications. Reporting provides facts. Understanding requires follow-through, context, and accountability. Unresolved details continue to matter because they define whether justice systems function as intended. Without clarity, cases risk becoming statistics rather than fully examined records. The absence of public resolution leaves the case incomplete.